Being a marketer's no sweat. You just have to manage dozens of channels, launch hundreds of campaigns, score thousands of leads, and okay, fine, it's a lot of sweat. Unless you have HubSpot's AI-powered marketing tools to help you do all that and more. Get started at HubSpot.com/marketers.
The following is a presentation of News Radio KMAN, your home for high school sports. This is Scoreboard Saturday on News Radio KMAN.
Back at it again here on News Radio KMAN, Scoreboard Saturday. Good morning to you. AJ Shaw with you on this Saturday morning. A lot of great games, of course, across the state of Kansas, and we have a big day of college football ahead for you, especially when it comes to K-State. We'll get into that a little bit later on in the program, but of course, our program this morning is brought to you by WTC Communications. WTC, keeping you connected with the fastest fiber network internet speeds. Get your home or business in the game online at WTCKS.com. That's WTCKS.com. You know what's funny is I've actually memorized that. I don't even have the sheet in front of me. Yeah, if you listen to the game, you're probably not surprised by that. Anywho, glad to be with you again this morning. We have a lot of interviews lined up for you. In fact, I have 5 interviews I have to play for you. I kind of overdid it this week. Hey, but you know what? You can never go wrong with multiple interviews. We'll, of course, start off with Manhattan. We'll get into that in just a moment. Later on in the program, we'll be joined by Logan Pegram, who's the head coach out at Silver Lake High School. Had an opportunity to meet him for the first time last night. Good guy. It's nice to get to chat with him. Talk to Erik Willimon from Riley County, as that was our B1047 Carpet One of Manhattan area game of the week. Also, we spoke with Shane Sieban from Rock Creek. We'll talk to him in our next segment. And also Nick Anderson from Frankfort High School, as they had a big win over Blue Valley Randolph last night. We'll get into that at the end of the program. But we'll start off with Manhattan, as we do every single week in the Centennial League. And last night, playing Wichita Northwest in a game that saw the only undefeated matchup in the entire state of Kansas. The only 2 teams playing each other that were both undefeated. There's only 4 teams remaining, well now 3, in the state of Kansas that are unbeaten. No, I did not spoil who won last night. Mitch Fortner, who is still unbeaten after last evening.
Last night, it was a battle of undefeated teams at Bishop Stadium. Manhattan hosting Wichita Northwest in a big-time 6A matchup. It was almost like a basketball game because this game was full of runs. Manhattan had a 10-0 run and 2 14-0 runs. Wichita Northwest had a 14-0 run that made it close in the second half. A 7-point game, but back-to-back rushing touchdowns by Carter Aslan puts it away. Indians still undefeated. They are 6-0, handing Wichita Northwest its first loss. Final score, 38-17. Mitch Fortner with Cole Dutchendorf. Cole, let's take a look at those final numbers, as Manhattan did a great job on both sides of the football.
Yeah, and you mentioned runs. Manhattan had plenty of them on the ground as well. 46 carries, 367 yards, 5 touchdowns on the ground. Carter Aslan had 22 carries for 191 yards, just 13 yards short of a career high. He had 3 touchdowns on the ground. Jaden Hudley, he had a couple of touchdowns as well. 17 carries, 134. And Kamario Davis rounded out that effort. 7 carries, 42 yards. Again, 367 yards on the ground. Carter Aslan was 2 for 8 through the air for 9 yards and was sacked for 10 yards. So all in all through the air, if you include the sack yardage, it was actually -1 yards. But again, 367 on the ground. Can't ask for much more from your rushing attack. For Wichita Northwest, Augie Fast, who is their star running back, averaging 190 yards per game coming into this contest, did not do very well. 14 carries, 37 yards. His longest run on the night was 6 yards, which is less than what his average was coming into this game. Jalen Mason, their quarterback, had 12 carries for 90 yards. Quavon Harris, 3 carries for 15 yards, and it was Fountain who had 1 carry for 3 yards, so 30 rushes, 145 yards. Through the air, Mason had 5 completed passes out of 17 attempts for 112 yards, a bulk of that coming on an 86-yard touchdown connection to Chase Carter. He had 2 catches for 98 yards and a touchdown. Total yards for the Grizzlies, 243 compared to 366 for Manhattan.
A very emotional game. We had a whole lot of unsportsmanlike penalties, personal foul penalties. A Manhattan assistant coach was kicked out of the game. All that being said, the Indians get it done in big-time fashion, winning by 21 points. Again, the final score, 38-17 over Wichita Northwest. Manhattan now 6-0. Wichita Northwest is 5-1. Manhattan now in the driver's seat to put themselves in a phenomenal spot to be a top 2 seed in the 6A west side of the playoffs with 2 games left. That next game is on the road this Friday night as they head to Topeka High. The Trojans are 4-2. Manhattan 6-0. And that game from Hummer Sports Park will kick off at 7 o'clock with pregame coverage at 6:30. Indians knock off Wichita Northwest in a battle of undefeated teams. Final score 38-17. For Cole Dutchendorf, I'm Mitch Fortner for Scoreboard Saturday.
And thank you so much, though, gentlemen. Yeah, 3 coaches kicked out, including Carter Aslan's dad, who was the defensive coordinator last evening. Joe Schartz also picked up a penalty in that one. Mitch had an opportunity along with the great Toby Hamas from the Manhattan Mercury following the ball game.
Knowing there was an emotional moment during that fourth quarter, how proud were you of your guys and their ability to respond and control the game?
Well, the second half started out and Northwest got within 1 score and had some momentum. I'm very proud of my guys to be able to respond from that. I mean, some mistakes were made and it's a team effort, whether it's coaches, players, everybody rallies around when things happen, and we find a way to overcome it and have success, and that's what's happened tonight.
Knowing it was obviously a big matchup, 2 undefeated teams, the ability of your team to just come out and kind of dominate for almost start to finish, just what kind of effort did it take to do that tonight?
Well, it was a good team, but we've been in some battles. We have kids that are playing both ways, and they're really good football players. And, I just don't think that Wichita Northwest has faced, obviously the level of competition that we provided. And, Wichita Northwest is a very good team, and they're gonna get better from this experience because, we raise that level of competition.
At the end of the game on the broadcast, we always name a player of the game, and today we decided to go with the entire defensive line. Ike Fast was averaging $190 a game, over 8 yards a carry. He never had an 8-yard carry and finished with under 40 yards. Talk about just the impact that makes on a game like this where you shut down their most electric player.
Well, it's, defense did a fantastic job. We're just coming off of 2 shutouts. We faced other high-powered offenses, and it seems like the defense always steps up and plays a good game. And this week's no different. Stepped up, shut down Mason and Fast. They're a 2-headed monster in their backfield, and the kids just did a fantastic job.
All right, just want to ask you one more about. We had a lot of flags tonight, a lot of, unsportsmanlike things, personal foul stuff. When those things kind of happen and a coach is ejected, is it harder to enjoy a win like this when you beat an undefeated team?
Well, it definitely, puts a little bit of a mark on the game, and because that's what people saw. But what I'm telling you, what you saw was not, what exactly transpired. There were some mistakes made, both on the sideline and with the officials.
Anything else?
I'll just ask, what kind of message do you feel like this type of win, beating an undefeated team, what kind of message does that send to the rest of 6A?
Well, we're on the west side. Is 2 of the remaining 3 undefeated teams. This does a lot for us. Not only gives us confidence of beating a really good football team, but helps us in the future with potential home field advantage and seeding. We just have to enjoy this victory, get in the film and clean up the mistakes, and get ready for Topeka High and control what we can control. But there's no doubt that this game definitely gives us a leg up for the playoffs.
Thank you, Coach.
All right, thank you.
Joe Schartz following the victory, and he mentioned the district victory. Those district records get important. And Manhattan High is unbeaten in district play, 6-0. And with 2 games remaining against Topeka teams, you got the Trojans on the road at Hummer Sports Park next week, and then Washburn Rural at home to wrap up the regular season. Those are 2 very important games, and it's going to definitely go and help your Centennial League record, but also most importantly, it's going to end up helping out your district record. And when we look at the playoff seeding, which is going to come out following the final games of the regular season, that's definitely going to play a role in how teams are seeded going forward. Speaking of the Junior Blues of Washburn Rural, they played last evening as well, and they were able to pick up a huge 53-8 victory over the Spartans of Emporia. And after a 1-3 start, Steve Bueller's team has won 2 straight. They have a home contest with Junction City next week, and then they'll take on Manhattan to wrap up the regular season. If you remember, Washburn Rural won the Centennial League last season because they were able to defeat Manhattan High in the regular season. Both of those teams are tied atop the league standings, and that final game of the season could determine who takes home the Centennial League. Topeka Hayden, of course, does not play Centennial League matchups, but they're in the Centennial League. Battle with Holton last night, and Bill Arnold able to beat his alma mater. Got the words out finally. 31-7 as Holton goes down to defeat Perry Lecompton, is on the Wildcats schedule next week, followed by a road tilt against Jeff West to wrap up the regular season. Junction City snapping a 4-game losing streak with a victory last night. They down Topeka High, who's now lost 2 straight after a 4-0 start, 50-21. Washburn Rural and Emporia is next on the docket for the Blue Jays of Junction City High School, who look to finish the season strong after a 1-4 start. Meanwhile, Topeka High struggling. 2 straight losses, and they've dropped to a losing record in league play, 1-2. And the district record still 4-2, but yeah, not looking great right now in league play. Coming up next, we'll dive into the NCKL and talk with Rock Creek coach Shane Sieban. They had a big game last night in Marysville. That's all coming your way next on Scoreboard Saturday, brought to you by WTC Communications. We back here on Scoreboard Saturday, News Radio KMAN. AJ Shaw with you on this Saturday morning. Again, K-State football coming up later tonight against Colorado, the Buffs. First time these 2 teams are meeting in the gridiron since 2010, when Colorado was last in the Big 12. We get you started at 5 o'clock with Power Cat Game Day. Mitch Fortner, Tim Everson, Mason Voth, and Zach Nemechek will be with you from 5 until 7. We get you then started with network coverage around 7 o'clock. And then kickoff at 9:15 from Folsom Field in Boulder. Mitch, by the way, is on his way right now as we speak to Boulder. And he's going to be taking a TikTok with him. Yes, Paul, our IT guy, has set up a TikTok. And you can go follow it. News Radio KMAN. Go ahead and follow it, and Mitch will be getting you some stuff from the game tonight. Paul already got some stuff from the Chiefs game the other night when they took on the Saints. So, yeah, go ahead and check that out. Give it a follow. And, yeah, we got some fun stuff I know coming up there, and I'm sure they're going to get me to do something on it because, yeah, AJ's got to have to do something on it, even though AJ is not a huge TikTok fan. But, hey, just because AJ doesn't like TikTok, go and follow it. Just because the Shaw doesn't like TikTok, go ahead and give that a follow. We already took you through the Centennial League, and, of course, if you miss any of the show, go ahead and check out our podcast. Just type in Scoreboard Saturday on News Radio KMAN. Give it a follow, and you will never miss an episode. We get these episodes up right after the show comes to an end. We dive now into the NCKL. We'll start with Rock Creek for the second straight week. Rock Creek on the road. Big game at Marysville last night. Marysville came into that game undefeated at 5-0 on the season, but Shane Sieban's team walks away with a victory, and I had an opportunity to talk to Coach after the ball game.
Yeah, really, we talked about needing to be have a complete team effort because Marysville is a really good team, and we needed to do it on offense, defense, and special teams, and really it was a complete effort, and we were able to get big stops defensively when we needed them. I got a couple turnovers, and I thought the key to it was they're very physical up front, and they do a great job in their run game, flex bone. We needed to be extremely disciplined against the flex bone and be sound against the option, and we had to win up front because they're a very physical front. Our kids did. Our defense played outstanding, and then Mac Lee did a great job at quarterback, and we just a complete team effort.
Yeah, Mac, I know, had a big game against Clay Center last week as well, and he's been playing really well for you these last few games for sure.
Yeah, he's a captain for us, and he's a leader, and he's been there and done that, and he's just been extremely consistent and did a great job tonight as well, both in the run game and throwing.
I know we talk about this a lot when we talk, but your defense, again, just they always find ways to make plays when it matters. Why do you think that is? Is it just preparation pretty much, or what is it?
Yeah, I think a lot of it is film study and preparation, understanding schemes, and then a lot of it's just we've got a lot of pieces at different levels, at all three levels. Up front on our defensive line, Mason Faith and Wade Rottinghouse, and Corday Kirksey, Cooper Sieban all did a great job up front on the D-line, and then on our second level, our linebackers, Ezra Spiller and Nick Allen and Tristan Meyer all had fantastic games, and then our secondary came to play as well and stepped up and made plays.
Being that this is the first year for you guys in the NCKL, is there a little extra preparation that has to go into some of these games because you're playing teams that you're not familiar with from the past?
We are actually pretty familiar with everybody in NCKL. We played everybody last year except for Abilene and Wamego, and we saw Wamego every summer with camps. So I wouldn't say we're unfamiliar with those teams. I think the NCKL has some really good football teams, and they present some different challenges, and we knew that was coming in. But it's not from a lack of familiarity. It's just there's some really good teams, some really good coaches in the area, and we've got to be ready to go every week.
For sure. Well, Marysville definitely, you mentioned they were physical up front, and your defense was again able to come out and play, and you beat a team on the road that was unbeaten coming in, so that's obviously a big confidence boost, and I know you guys are definitely going to be having a nice weekend now, enjoying that, and looking forward to seeing you in a couple of weeks when you guys play Chapman. Coach, really appreciate the time. Thank you so much.
Thanks, AJ. I appreciate it.
Shane Sieban, great guy. Always great to talk with him as Rock Creek goes to 5-1 on the season. 3-1 in league play, 2-0 in district play, and really, if you take out the Wamego game, they have just been dominant this season. 31-14 win last night, 21-0 win last week over Clay Center, 42-6 over Abilene, and 57-0 over Bonner Springs, 63-7 opening week win over Bishop Ward. Concordia on the road next for them, and then they have Chapman on the docket, and as I mentioned to Coach there, we'll see them final regular season game of the year at the Rock when they take on the Fighting Irish at Chapman High School in the B1047 Carpet, one of Manhattan area game of the week. Speaking of the only team to beat Rock Creek this season, Weston Moody's Wamego Red Raiders, playing Chapman last night in a road tilt, and they pick up a 56-16 victory as Coach Moody's team goes to 5-1 overall, 5-1 in district play, and 3-1 in the North Central Kansas League right now. That is a very tight top of the league right now. Marysville still in first, although Rock Creek now owns the tiebreaker over them in league play, Wamego owning the tiebreaker over Rock Creek. Marysville, however, has the tiebreaker over Wamego. Clay Center then checking in at 3-1, although the Tigers are 3-3 overall, and their district record is 2-1, so it's okay. They did shut out Concordia last night, 28-0, and we'll see the Tigers next weekend when they take on Wamego in Boomtown for the B1047 Carpet, one of Manhattan game of the week. Mark Henry's team has had their struggles at times this year. They played very well in wins against Abilene and Chapman and Concordia. But when they've had to go up against Southeast of Saline or Lewisburg or Rock Creek, they've struggled. They did have a couple of close losses in those games to SES and Lewisburg, but the Rock Creek game, they couldn't get anything going. And next week, they have to play their toughest challenge of the season in Wamego. Now, if you do remember last season, first game of the year in Clay Center, Mark Henry's team was able to upset the Red Raiders of Wamego High School. So we could be in store for another victory coming up here next week if Clay Center can pull the upset. The problem is Wamego doesn't lose many games at home. In fact, Wamego, since the start of the 2021 season, has only lost twice in that building. And they were playoff losses to Andover Central. As for the Cowboys of Abilene, they've dropped 2 straight games. They fall to Augusta in a home contest last night, 36-22. So back-to-back losses for the Cowboys, and Brad Nix's team has to now go on the road to El Dorado and then Wamego to wrap up the season. In the middle of the season, we were thinking, Abilene may be worth something. They win 2 in a row over Chapman and Concordia, but they get blown out on the road at the Rock and Rock Creek. They lose a tough overtime game at home to Marysville. They definitely gave Marysville a good fight. And then last night, Augusta, in a district battle, really takes them down. And again, I'm focusing a lot on these district records because as we get into the final couple of weeks of the regular season, those district records are going to matter when it comes to playoff seeding. We're not going to know the playoff seeding likely until the morning after the final regular season games, and that's going to be Saturday, October 26th, a.k.a. The day K-State will play KU. And we'll definitely go over the seeding and all that stuff like that and what those playoff matchups mean, particularly for our area teams. And I'll tell you this, it's going to be a lot of games to go over. But as soon as we go through the postseason and as that thing continues to narrow itself down, we will definitely be able to kind of get through it a little bit quicker and get some ideas of it. So right now, Marysville, Rock Creek, Wamego, and Clay Center tied at the top of the NCKL with 3-1 records. Abilene 2-3, Concordia 1-4, Chapman winless in league play. But again, the district records are the key here when you are looking at the playoff seeding. Again, Marysville's only played 2 games in district play. They're 1-1 in district play. For Rock Creek, the Mustangs are 2-0. They've won their 2 district matchups, and that's important for them when you look at specifically playoff seeding. Wamego, in their district contest, they're 5-1. Every game has been a district game for them. So they've done their job inside of district play. And as for Clay Center, you look at what they've done in district play, they're 2-1. They haven't played as many district games. So Rock Creek and Wamego are sitting very comfortably in their districts. Well, as for Marysville and Clay Center, just not much of a record there to really look at and figure out what the situation is going to be in district play. But if you're looking at the league title, yeah, that's important. Right now, Marysville's got the tiebreaker over Wamego, but Rock Creek's got the tiebreaker over Marysville. It's a very important thing to remember when looking at these standings. Coming up next, we head out east to the Big East League. Riley County and Silver Lake last night. We talked with Logan Pegram from Silver Lake and Erik Willimon from Riley County. Also get you a look at the media poll for the first time on this Saturday morning. That's all coming your way next on Scoreboard Saturday here on News Radio KMAN, powered by WTC Communications. All right, we're back here on Scoreboard Saturday, News Radio KMAN. Royals season over after a loss to the Tigers the other night, Thursday night. Yeah, I'm not really happy about that. You look at the lack of hitting throughout the series, and it comes down to guys not performing. And again, remember, one of your 3 best hitters was dealing with a broken thumb. And Troy Coverdale on the game, I know, was making the comment that Vinny Pasquantino was effectively swinging with 9 fingers. Had his thumb up off the bat. Bobby Witt didn't do much, only had 2 hits in the whole series against the Yankees, and really, outside of that, they couldn't get anything going. Pitching wasn't the problem, although there was over 20 walks. 23 walks in the whole series? So the Royals season ends, but you have to also give this team credit by improving by 30 wins after the dreadful season they had last year. So a lot of interesting decisions ahead for J.J. Piccolo and staff as they head into the offseason and try to build off of this 86-win campaign. We continue, of course, here on Scoreboard Saturday, News Radio KMAN. Kim Commando, of course, coming up right after the program ends this morning from 9 until noon. Let's now get into the Big East League. We'll start with our area game of the week last night. The final time we're going to see the Riley County Falcons until probably postseason, as they head to Silver Lake last night in what was a big ball game, not just for Big East League standings, but also district standings. Silver Lake 4-1, Riley County 4-1 coming into play. Both teams haven't played many district contests. Riley County was 1-1 in district play. Silver Lake was 1-0 in district play. And it was the Eagles of Silver Lake High School that come away with the 28-6 win, and they've really caught their stride the last couple weeks. Blew out Baldwin by a 50-0 score, and then last night come in and really handle a hot Riley County team, even though Sam Allen had a big evening, and he was the Manhattan Record player of the game last evening, despite his team's defeat. And really, Silver Lake didn't do anything too special. It was a very basic evening. Not many big plays, but when they did get the big play, it worked out. And I had an opportunity to chat with Logan Pegram, the head coach of the Eagles, following the ball game.
Big win tonight for you guys. You go to 5-1, 2-0 in district play. I want to talk about your defense first. They really came out to play once again tonight.
Yeah, our kids did a great job. They did a great job preparing. We've gotten to a rhythm of understanding what Tuesday looked like, what Wednesday looks like, and Thursday being perfect and clean it off. Defensive coaches coaching their butts off. And we got Coach Dewey, Coach Lowe, a couple of the Hamiltons over there, and they take pride in that, and that's what we've been trying to get back into our program for the last couple of years.
You started the game off with 14 runs in your first 15 plays, but you really opened up your passing game in the second half. 40-yard touchdown gave you guys a lot of momentum, I'm sure, going at the end of the half.
Yeah, we didn't finish the half that I wanted. I took a stupid timeout trying to think that we might be able to force them to a punt or something, snap it in the end zone. They went down and made it a game. The way the kids responded was great. The 14 runs out of 15, we haven't been able to run the ball all year. They gave us a pretty light box there to start, and I was very proud of how our kids took advantage of that.
Allen Lee's big game tonight for you, and you mentioned the running game tonight. They gave you a bit of a light box. How much credit does your offensive line, you think, have to get for that as well?
A lot. I think their coach was struggling there at the beginning because I'm the O-line coach, but tonight I think we kind of put it on their back for the first time, and it was awesome to see they respond. I would like to finish the game a little bit better, but coaches got to make better calls. But the kids responded, and, like I said, we're hitting a groove, and we're really enjoying each other, and we're finally playing for each other, playing Silver Lake football.
Tell me about that swinging gate play you had, the little pitches inside, and you were able to get that touchdown on the one. That was a pretty cool play call you had there.
Yeah, we sometimes we get bored on Saturdays, or I get bored, and looking for ways that we can just kind of be different, put something on film that people have to prepare for. We ran it a couple times, and we were able to get a big first down with it, and then I think Dane snuck in there for a touchdown. So it was kind of fun. I think, like I said, we're getting into maybe not necessarily a rut, but a rhythm. It gives us something different, a different look to prepare for.
Osage City next, then Council Grove, couple tough games in district. As you look back on this one, what can be learned from this into going into those games?
Yeah, I think we're seeing kids grow up. We got some freshmen, we got some sophomores on the O-line, we got some freshmen playing linebacker. I think the biggest thing is this time of the year, you're starting to see freshmen turn into sophomores to juniors to seniors, and those seniors just making plays. So we got to keep getting better. The next one's the biggest one because I'm sure it's probably, it's just the next one.
Logan Pegram after the ball game. It was great to chat with him, and first time I actually met him, and he's a good guy, and it's good to talk with him as his Silver Lake Eagles are 5-1 on the season. Erik Willimon's team, tough loss last night. Also had a chance to talk with him following the ball game.
Coach, tonight not the way you guys wanted to. You fall 28-6. Sam Allen had a big game, but in the second half they kind of seemed to keep him from going out for even more yardage.
Yeah, we just got behind and they put us out of our game plan. And, at that point in time when you're playing catch up, it's hard just to run the ball. So, credit to Coach Pegram and, his kids for being ready. And, even a team like this, you can't commit turnovers. You got to make tackles. You got to hold your blocks. And we didn't execute, and that falls on me.
Even with the loss, you guys still are 4-2. You've had real great success this year with your run game, and you may be getting Eli Harmison back soon, hopefully.
Yeah, we're a little dinged up. That's no excuse for our performance tonight. Again, I take responsibility for that. But yeah, we hope to be getting some guys back in the next couple of weeks and kind of see we're going to have some things fall our way in districts for us to make the playoffs, and so just keep chopping wood, get ready for Heston.
As you look ahead to the Heston game, what has to change from tonight as you head into that one next week?
We just, the fundamentals of football. We just got to get better at it.
Coach, always appreciate the time. Thank you so much, sir. Erik Willimon following the game. Apologies for the background noise. I was getting that by the locker room after the game before we headed back here to Manhattan. But Riley County, not in an enviable position. But again, a lot of things to obviously look ahead to. And again, they've been playing some good football outside of last night. I mean, Heston is up next, and Heston, looking at their record in district play, they're 3-0 and they're unbeaten. So that's going to be an even tougher matchup for Silver Lake. So a lot of key preparation is going to have to go into that ball game, and then following that, they have a game at home with Osage City, the Indians of Osage City, and Osage City on the season is also 6-0. So it does not get much easier for Erik Willimon's team as they look to try to get to postseason, and it doesn't help when you have a losing record in district play, 1-2 on the season. Still, though, doing pretty solid in Big East League play with a 3-1 league record. First loss of the season in league play coming to Silver Lake, who now sits at 4-1 in league play. Nemaha Central, of course, the big game last night. I would say it was the game in the state of Kansas because it's always the game in the state of Kansas when these two teams play. Nemaha Central and Sabetha, and the Thunder of Nemaha Central down the Blue Jays of Sabetha High School, 24-0. Nemaha Central, remember they lost that first game of the season to Marysville. Ever since then, they've been playing P.O.'d. I don't want to say the word, but peeved off. We'll say that, peeved off. Yeah, it doesn't sound as great, but I don't want to say the other word on the air. 5-1, 2-0 in district play, and 3-0 in Big East League play. How about Royal Valley? They've definitely had a solid season. They pick up a big win over Atchison County last night, 54-8. David Boucher's team sits at 1-1 in district play, 3-2 in Big East League play, and 4-2 in overall play. We mentioned Holton earlier. Not a big game for them last night against Topeka Hayden, but again, that's a tough matchup for Brooks Barta's team. They lose it 31-7 to the Wildcats of Topeka Hayden. St. Mary's, they've dropped 3 straight after a 3-0 start. What's going on with the Bears? Remember last year, they dropped their first 3 games and then won, I believe, 5 in a row? This year, it's the opposite. They won the first 3 games, pretty convincing wins in all 3. Last couple weeks, they've lost 3 close games. Lost to Silver Lake, lost to Riley County, and then they lose a home tilt with Osage City last night, 24-16. Yeah, Osage City's pretty good, folks. And Riley County's got to see them on their docket on the schedule in a couple of weeks. Clayton Marple's team now 3-3, and they're 0-3 in district play. That's not ideal when you're looking at postseason seeding because you could be a rather low seed if your district record is not looking good. They got Council Grove and Sabetha, so it doesn't get any easier for them following the game. Troy's going to be happy about this. His Hiawatha Redhawks, team he used to call games for back in the 90s, they had a big win over Oskaloosa last night, 42-6. But the schedule doesn't get easy for Wyatt Giroux's team after this week. Holton and Perry Lecompton to wrap up the regular season. 2-4 overall of the Redhawks, 1-1 in district play, and 1-2 in league play. Rossville, they've rebounded somewhat after their slow start, even though they don't have a win in league play. They are unbeaten in district play. Derek Hamas's team takes down Carpareval 71-24 last night. So they've won 3 consecutive games after an 0-3 start. And even in the 3 losses they had to Silver Lake, St. Mary's, and Nemaha Central, those were single-score losses, one-score losses. Lost by a touchdown to Silver Lake, lost by 5 to St. Mary's, and lost by 3 to Nemaha Central. They got the forfeit win over Maranthic Academy. Mission Valley, they blew them out, and they blow out Carpareval. Olpe and Wabaunsee on the schedule after this. A lot of things to look ahead to for Rossville. Maybe they can finish the season strong. Perry Lecompton, the Cause, pick up their second win of the season as they downed Jeff West last night, 43-14. Mike Paramore's team, 1-1 in district play, 2-4 in Big East League play. Bad game for them next week. Topeka Hayden's on the docket, not going to be an easy one, and then Hiawatha to wrap up the regular season. And right now, again, Nemaha Central, the only unbeaten team in the Big East. It has been fun to follow this league this year. Again, when you merge the old Big 7 and the old Big East League, the Mid-East League, I'm sorry, not surprising to see these teams being as competitive as they are. Let's dive real quickly, because we are kind of running short on time today. That's what happens when you have a lot of interviews. In the media rankings, we'll go 6A through 4A, and then if we are able to get through 3A through 1A, we'll try to do that in our final segment, although we do have to talk to Nick Anderson, the Frankfurt head coach. Derby's still at the top in 6A. They're 5-0. Gardner-Edgerton did get a first-place vote. They're in second. Manhattan third. Wichita Northwest, that's going to fall back a little bit with their loss at 4. Blue Valley West 5. Blue Valley Northwest at 6. Olathe East at 7. Lawrence Free State 8. Lawrence 9. And Shawnee Mission Northwest checks in at 10. They were not on the rankings last week. Wichita East receiving the most votes not to be in the rankings this week at 14. St. Thomas Aquinas and Mill Valley, I mean, it's pretty much 1-2 at that point. Both teams got first-place votes, but because St. Thomas Aquinas hadn't lost a game yet, they get the top spot. Mill Valley checks in at 2 with Blue Valley at 3. Great Bend, despite being 5-0, is only at 4. Goddard Eisenhower 5-0. Baser Linwood checks in at 6. Mays South is at 7. DeSoto 8. And Goddard and Hayes back into the rankings this week after not being ranked last week. They check in at 9 and 10. Over in 4A, Cape and Mount Carmel, they check in at 1 after being at 2 last week. So we have a new number 1 in 4A because Andover Central lost last week. Lewisburg, even though they're 5-0, they check in at 2. Andover Central 3, they drop back 2 spots with Wamego at 4. Wellington 5, Chanute at 6. Bishop Miege, who is 0-5. 0-5 is Bishop Miege. My goodness. They're 7th. Buhler down 4 spots to 8th. Tonganoxie sticks in at 9. And McPherson at 10. And that's a quick look at your media rankings. We'll see if we can get to 3A, 2A, and 1A for you before the show wraps up. Coming up next, we head out to the TVL, the Twin Valley League. We'll talk with Frankfurt head coach Nick Anderson and wrap up the show. It's coming your way next here on Scoreboard Saturday. Brought to you by WTC Communications. Final segment here of Scoreboard Saturday on News Radio KMAN. As I mentioned, Kim Commando coming your way next. K-State football then tonight, 5 o'clock, Power Cat Game Day. Mitch, Tim, Mason, and Zach. Network coverage gets underway at 7. And then we get you started with kickoff at 9:15 here on News Radio KMAN here on this Saturday morning. Get you now into the Twin Valley League. Had an opportunity to speak with head coach Nick Anderson from Frankfurt High School after the ball game last night after his team's 54-8 win over Blue Valley Randolph.
You know, offensively, we were able to move the ball pretty efficiently, and obviously we didn't win the time of possession battle. They held the ball for a long time, but, you know, it just seemed like we seemed to shoot ourselves in the foot a lot early, and a couple turnovers that isn't really our style. We don't really do that very often, and so we made things probably more difficult than we needed to, but, you know, sometimes you gotta learn to play through adversity, and with it being homecoming, a lot of things going on, and so ultimately very proud of the kids and how they finished the game and how they kept competing, even though there was a lot of adversity throughout.
Wes Anderson, how did he play this evening?
Oh, I wouldn't say he was perfect. He wasn't too bad. I had a chance to see the stats. He did throw his first interception of the year. He probably should have been a touchdown if he just gets something on it. But you know, we had opportunities in the passing game. He threw the ball well down the field. We had a couple big plays. So maybe not his best performance, but he was definitely solid for us.
As you look ahead to the next 2 matchups, you got to take on Wakefield next week. That's going to be a district matchup, and then you got Axtell to wrap up the season. If you look back at this game tonight, you said there were things that have to be cleaned up. What are some of the things you're going to look to as you head into practice early next week to try to clean up for those 2 games?
You know, we had those 2 turnovers. Those are our first turnovers offensively on the year. So, you know, we got to do some things to clean that up, and we still get some silly penalties, jumping off sides, and a personal foul here or there. So those types of things, you know, you can get away with in some weeks, but as the season progresses, those things are going to come back to haunt us. So we got to tighten the ship a little bit up there.
How important is home field advantage for you guys?
Oh, it's always nice. We have a nice routine we go through when we're at home, and so it feels comfortable. And anytime you're on the road, that routine is a little bit different. But I really think our kids enjoy playing on the road. We love being at home. We got a great support system, a great community. There's a ton of people there tonight, but I don't think it really matters to our kids where we play.
For sure. Couple more questions from me. Talk about your defensive effort this evening. What were your thoughts on your defense?
Defensively, we knew we were going to have some challenges. The Brockman kid is probably one of the more elusive quarterbacks that we played up to this point in time, and he puts a lot of pressure on the defense with his ability to an extended play, and he always keeps his eyes downfield. But overall, I thought defensively we played really well. They had one big run on us where we had some guys in wrong gaps, and it came back to cost us. But overall, I thought we played really well defensively.
Good to hear. And again, as I mentioned, Wakefield and Axtell coming up. How much do you pay attention to standings? Do you focus on them a little bit, or do you not look at them at all, really?
We take it week to week because regardless of who you're playing in district, every game, whatever game you're playing, that's the most important one, and we got to go take care of business at Wakefield before we need to worry about anything else down the road.
Well, Coach, I hope your kids get some good rest tonight and this weekend and are able to come back out and get a win against Wakefield. Always great to talk to you, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Nick Anderson, Frankfort head coach, really appreciate his time as always as his team picks up a victory last evening. Axtell Eagles, we mentioned Axtell. Yep, it's now 45, folks. Didn't even need to spoil it. Didn't even need to tease you there. Didn't even need to build it up. 45 in a row. Longest win streak in the state of Kansas. They beat St. Paul by a score of 68-0 last night. Hanover and Frankfort, two very good ball games to wrap up the season. Hanover, we mentioned the next opponent. They took down Wakefield by a 68-0 score. Is that going to be the game of the year in TVL 8-man next week against Axtell? Probably. The following is going to be a good game, though, too, against Frankfort. That game, though, could determine next week who takes home the Twin Valley League title in 8-man. The Eagles of Clifton Clyde High School, they've won 4 in a row after an 0-2 start. Ross Steinbrock's team now 3-0 in district play. They take down Sylvan Lucas Unified by a 32-6 win. They got Mankato Rock Hills on the score, and then Lincoln to wrap up the season. Lynn, meanwhile, the Bulldogs, they're winless in league play, but they're unbeaten in district play. They take down Pike Valley last night by a 58-30 win. They have Osborne and Hanover on their schedule next. And Washington County, things just not going real good right now for the Tigers. They fall to 0-6 as Jason Ham's team loses to Mankato Rock Hills by a final of 54-6 last evening. As for TVL 11-man, Cody Trimble's Valley Heights Mustangs continuing to play very well this season. They beat Harrington last night in a district matchup 54-8. They're unbeaten in district play, 3-0 with a 5-1 overall record and a 2-1 record in TVL 11-man action. Cody Trimble's team playing very well right now, but really Centralia is the cream of the crop right now. Roger Holthus' team now at 5-1, 3-0 in district play, 3-0 in league play. They take down Horton in a road tilt last night by a 46-0 shutout. Back-to-back weeks with shutouts for Centralia, who are winners of 4 straight games. Troy and Riverside are on the docket next for them next week. As for the Buffaloes of Onega High School, they were losers to Jackson Heights last night, who's been playing very well this season. They've been playing really well, which is surprising because they've had a couple of rough seasons the last few years. Jackson Heights takes down Onega. The Buffaloes fall 64-8. They've dropped 2 straight, and 4 of their last 5. They have a road contest with the Rams of Pleasant Ridge next week before wrapping the season up with McLouth. And then finally, Doniphan West, who has not won a contest yet in district or league play. That's going to continue. They lose to Mount Harrell Mount Academy 19-14 last night, as John Polino's team falls to 1-5 on the season. Riverside at home, their next opponent on the season. We're not going to have time, unfortunately, to go through 3A, 2A, and 1A because we had so many interviews lined up today. We had 5 interviews. That's got to be the most we've had in the history, at least since I've been hosting. But really appreciate the coaches that we had an opportunity to speak to. Again, Kib Commando coming your way next from 9 until noon. No Chiefs football this week. They are on a bye. But we will have Sunday Night Football for you tomorrow night as the Bengals and the Giants do battle. Westwood One will have it for you at 6 p.m. for the pregame as the Bengals and Giants do battle. As for K-State, again, 5 o'clock Power Cat game day this evening. Mitch Fortner, Tim Everson, Zach Nemechek, and Mason Voth, a.k.a. the Stumper of the Shaw. He did it twice. I have to say that on the air. No, I'm not contractually obligated to say that. I just like to say that because it motivates me to do better the next time I face him. I hope Mason heard that because the next time we face each other, Mason, it's going to go a lot differently, I feel. Anywho, that's coming up at 5. Network coverage gets you started at 7, and then game 9:15 kick, another Big 12 After Dark. And, of course, don't forget to follow our TikTok as Mitch Fortner will be getting you some inside coverage from the booth up there at Folsom Field in Boulder on the TikTok. It's just News Radio, KMAN. We'll be back again next weekend, same time, same place, 8 a.m. here for another edition of Scoreboard Saturday. Again, this show brought to you by WTC Communications, WTC keeping you connected with the fastest fiber network internet speeds. Get your home or business in the game online at WTCKS.com. We out. See you next week.